In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie Schwartz.
And I'm Katelyn Hart. Hello. Hello there.
This is the show where we talk about the bones and the bone-related topics.
Yeah, bones and bone-like objects and bones in the ground. Whatever kind of bones you're feeling.
Well, I know what kind of bones I'm feeling, and they're coming all the way from New Mexico. They're the bones of our guest, Grace Penzell.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Grace.
Hi, Grace.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Grace is an improv and sketch comedian, first in Seattle and now in Santa Fe. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Grace, Katelyn, and I have been a trio of best friends for a couple of years now, and Grace is someone who we are particularly excited to have on the podcast.
I'm so excited to be your third wheel.
Oh, it's okay. We're not quite that exclusive yet. I don't want to be in the equation as not with a third wheel. Does that make sense?
You don't want to be in the equation as me as a third wheel?
Yeah, I just want 3 parts, no wheels.
Oh, okay. Cool. Like a good stool. Like a good stool.
Like a good, sturdy stool. Same joke. I think of it more like we've squished all of our bones together into one mega being.
Virtually, of course.
The biggest bone babe of them all.
The biggest, hottest, most intimidating bone babe.
I'm fine with it. Where do I sign?
You're already there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Are we doing some kind of trench coat situation where 2 of us are on each other's shoulders and then one big trench coat?
Yeah, but like literally fused. All of our bones are in one being.
So it's more like we're wearing a big trench coat and we have 3 beautiful heads.
We're wearing a trench coat of skin.
Yeah.
Is that too much? Too gross? Did I go too far? Sorry, this is the bone cast, I thought.
No, you have not gone too far. Maybe not far enough. Our shoes are made of bones. Our hair is made of veins.
Oh, okay. That did it for me.
And I'm out. Thank you.
All right, well, let's call this the introduction. And
I think it was good. A bone-chilling open.
yes. So when I was looking for topics to share with you today, I was thinking about the areas of study that you are most learned in. You majored in religion, right? In school, we went to college together. So I'm going to head into our next topic, which is a little bit of a pun because I'm going to be telling you guys about a very special relic, Saint Oliver Plunkett's head.
Plunkett?
Do you know Plunkett? Are you familiar?
No. I hate to say that I do not know about Saint Oliver Plunkett?
Saint Oliver Plunkett. Did I say Sir Oliver Plunkett?
No, I think I messed it up. Okay, I'm really excited though.
Cool. I'm going to, I forgot to download the image that I wanted to send to you guys. This is going super well.
I think it's fine. I think we're chilling. I feel the most relaxed I've felt all day.
Good. Well, I might have to undo that relaxation here with this picture. And if you turn your attention to our group chat, there's a photo.
Oh, yuck. Why?
Oh boy. Oh
The first thing that came into my head when I saw that is Lord Voldemort.
Yes, he has quite a Lord Voldemort type feel about him.
The first thing I thought when I saw it is he's like an angry old grandpa that you don't want to get close to when your mom tells you to hug him during Christmas.
Hug Grandpa's head now.
Just because of the way his teeth are, that's all.
He doesn't look like happy, so that's my problem with it as well.
Sophie, why doesn't this saint look happy?
Well, he actually lived quite a tumultuous life. Would you guys like to hear about it?
Yes.
Please.
What happened to Oliver, please?
Okay, so Oliver Plunkett was born November 1st, 1625, and he was the Catholic Bishop of Armagh and the primate of all Ireland, who was the last victim of the Popish plot. His head is now on display in St. Peter's Church in Drogheda, Ireland. He was born to well-to-do parents, but during this time, there was the Irish Confederate Wars going on in Ireland, and that was basically conflict between native Irish Catholics, English, Irish Anglicans, and Protestants. At this time, there was a lot of religious turmoil in Ireland. People had very strong feelings, one way or another, Catholicism versus Protestantism. So Oliver was educated and became ordained as a priest in 1654 and was appointed by the Irish bishops to act as their representative in Rome. Meanwhile, the Cromwellian conquest of Ireland had defeated the Catholics in Ireland, and the public practice of Catholicism was banned, and many members of the Catholic clergy were executed. So at this point, our buddy Oliver is hanging out in Rome, but he can't go home, because if he did, he would be persecuted, maybe executed. So
God, it's such a shame, because, like, they're not that different.
would
I'm
you
gonna have like a lot of Protestants and Catholics super mad at me. Like, obviously there's like a lot of intricate differences between the religions, but for so many people to die about, like, is it actually the Trinity? You know, I don't know. It just seems a little goofy to me.
Would you care to outline a little bit of what the differences are?
Catholics believe that communion wine, once you bless it, literally is the blood of Jesus Christ. It's called transubstantiation, where they believe that one substance truly becomes another substance. So when you're in church and you're a Catholic, you're drinking blood.
That's metal as hell.
Yeah, it's pretty metal. It's pretty hardcore.
So hardcore. So Oliver petitions to stay in Rome, and they're like, okay, if you're going to stay here, you got to teach theology. So he becomes a professor of theology in 1657. He eventually ends up coming back to Irish soil around 1670. And I love what he gets down to when he comes home. After arriving back in Ireland, he decides he's going to tackle drunkenness in the clergy.
Oh, boy.
I thought it was going to be just like general drunkenness, but then it got super zoomed in on clergy.
Yeah, there's a quote from his writings that says, quote, "Let us remove the defect from an Irish priest, and he will be a saint."
Why is he so focused on the clergymen not drinking? Like, isn't that kind of a systemic problem? Like,
well, and also, if I thought that there was someone waiting to behead me around every corner, I would probably be drunk all the time too.
Yeah, what else was there to do? I'm sorry, it's the 1600s. Like, go fuck yourself. I have nothing better to do.
Sorry. Do you want me to make dolls out of potato? Did they have potatoes in Ireland back then?
Hell
Yes.
yeah.
You want me to make potato dolls?
Potato dolls. Well, he didn't have any time to make potato dolls because he was too busy establishing his Jesuit college in Drogheda in 1670. And the cool thing about this Jesuit college was that in his like first year of teaching or having the college like up and running, 150 students attended the college and around 40 of them were Protestants. So this was actually the first integrated college in Ireland.
Oh, so he was kind of on the more moderate side. Like, can't we all get along? Can we focus on what makes us similar rather than what makes us different?
Yeah, he wanted this integrated school to kind of be a bridge between Catholics and Protestants because he was a peaceful dude. He did want everyone to get along, but he was very intent on making a lot of Catholics. In fact, it was said that he may have confirmed 48,000 Catholics over a 4-year period.
Oh, a sneaky proselytizer, huh?
Very busy.
So he was down to integrate with the Protestants, but he had an end goal.
Mm-hmm.
But so all this is going on, but it's gonna come to a rather abrupt halt because we've got the enactment of the Test Act in 1673, which was basically another anti-Catholic law, which forced Plunkett to go into hiding and travel in disguise. Which I like to think that he's, going from house to house being like, shh, don't tell anyone, it's me. Also, do you want to be a Catholic? Because I got crazy numbers behind me.
Like he just can't help himself.
Yeah, he's like, ooh, I'll just sit down, I'll just eat a little bread and water, but also, have you heard about Jesus?
I think it'd be pretty easy to hide in those days. Like if you just don't say who you are, most likely no one's gonna know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, how would they have known?
Like there are portraits of people that are important, but I don't know. I'm curious to see where this story goes, but I just thought I'd throw out there, wouldn't it be so easy to hide when no one knows what anyone looks like?
I think it would be pretty easy to hide. Maybe not for him because he had started this school. He was the representative to Rome and was an outspoken Catholic. And, in that time, that was pretty rare to be like, I'm a Catholic, I'm out, I'm proud, come get me, English. And the English were like, yeah, we are. We're coming for you. Because here comes the drama, the saint drama. Okay. So now we're going forward to 1678, and this is the popish plot that we're talking about here. It was a conspiracy that was made up by a clergyman named Titus Oates, which is a great name.
Titus Oates.
Titus Oates.
Oliver Plunkett, Titus Oates, we've got some good ones going.
Yeah, I love these guys. So these rumors and this plot led to further anti-Catholic action, and Plunkett is still deep in hiding, but someone goes to the Privy Council of England in Westminster and tells them that Plunkett is planning a French invasion, which he definitely was not.
He's Irish,
did I miss what the plot was?
The plot was that they're spreading Catholicism, and apparently Oliver Plunkett is planning a French invasion.
Oh, okay. So they were just like slapping new labels on the same thing he was doing door to door.
The plot was that they didn't want him and they needed to make up something to get him other than...
Oh, I see.
And I think this plot roped in a bunch of other Catholic, high-ranking Catholics of the time, because I think a couple of people were executed in this time over this plot. But even though he was on the run and he basically had a price on his head, Plunkett refused to leave his congregation. So he ends up getting captured and standing trial. Unfortunately, he happens to have an all-Protestant jury who ends up returning a guilty verdict in about 15 minutes.
So like guilty of being Catholic, basically?
Yeah, they found him guilty of promoting the Roman faith.
Oh, can't we all just get along, Irish people?
That jury sounds like super biased. Like they didn't really give him much of a chance there, huh?
Yeah, but I was reading, I think, on Wikipedia that apparently he had no problem with the all-Protestant jury, which I think he definitely should have had a problem with that.
Yeah, I think he would have fared better with a jury of potato dolls.
He would have fared better with a jury of horse dung.
I have to say it 3 times now because the first time I really didn't think it was a very good joke. So it'll come around again. Don't worry.
Potato dolls are going to come back around. I'm going to make one later. Okay, so he was condemned to death and Plunkett was hanged, drawn, and quartered at Tyburn on July 1st, 1681, at the age of 55.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Hung, drawn, and quartered is one of the worst ones.
Yeah, definitely. Now we're starting to get to the interesting part, even though his life was pretty interesting. So his body was initially buried in 2 tin boxes next to 5 Jesuits who had died previously through execution. And so he was buried at St. Giles in the Fields Church. Then the remains were exhumed in 1683 and moved to Benedictine Monastery at Lamb's Spring near Heidelstein in Germany.
You're killing it.
I'm killing it. The head was brought to Rome, from there to Arma, and eventually to Drogheda, where it has remained since 1921. The interesting thing about this, there was like a 200-year period where this head was kept by some nuns.
Oh.
And they were hiding it, and they had to hide the fact that they were Catholic nuns, that they were practicing Catholicism. They were also hiding this severed head. And there's a quote from an article on BBC.com from a historian, Tommy Burns, who said, quote, "The head of Saint Oliver was kept in a lovely ebony box, which fitted perfectly squarely on top of their grandfather clock."
Oh, no.
Aww.
I don't want that clock.
I wonder if they liked it. I wonder if they were like...
If they said hi to him every day, they were like, "Oliver?"
Yeah,
Saint
exactly.
Plunkett. I mean, I think to have part of the body of a martyred saint in your convent is probably, it's a big boon for faith, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the clock, I just feel like my problem is the clock, I think. It's both crazy and too casual. Does that make sense?
Sure. What would be your ideal spot, Katelyn, for keeping the head?
The closet, like under a blanket. No. Okay, if that's where I don't know. But if
that's where you would keep it if it was in your house.
That's where I would keep it if it was in my house. But I guess you could put it on some kind of pedestal. You could put it on a bookshelf. No, scratch that. No bookshelf. I feel like a bookshelf is the same as the clock.
I think pedestal's good.
Yeah.
But ladies, we're trying to hide the head. If it's on a pedestal, it's very noticeable.
Oh, okay.
I forgot we were trying to hide
We're
it.
hiding
Closet it is.
Okay.
Closet it is.
So wait, but it's on the clock, but they're trying to hide it? So what if somebody comes in and isn't
It's in a
looking
box
for the time?
It's in a box on top of the clock. So there's
I
a clock
see.
and it's got a box on top. And if you were to open the box, you would see Oliver Plunkett in there just like, "Hey, what's up?"
Do you think it's like a hat box?
Maybe.
An ebony hat box.
Like an old-timey hat box, but it actually has a saint's head in it.
But I was trying to find what method they used to preserve the head, because I was just interested, because I'm a bone pervert. And
it looks like it's still got skin on that mother, so tell me.
I couldn't find how they did it because I kept coming up against the concept of incorruptibility.
What?
So there's this concept of incorruptibility in the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox belief. It's that divine intervention allows some human bodies, specifically saints, to avoid the normal processes of decomposition after death as a sign of their holiness. So bodies that undergo little or no decomposition are referred to as incorrupt. That's a quote from Wikipedia. And it used to be a requirement for saints that they be like incorrupt. But now that's kind of neither here nor there with saints. But continuing from Wikipedia. If a body is judged to be incorruptible after death, it is most often seen as a sign that the individual is a saint. Canon law allows inspection of the body so that relics can be taken and sent to Rome. The relics must be sealed with wax, and the body must be replaced after inspection. I couldn't find whether or not Oliver Plunkett is considered incorrupt, but his head is pretty intact. Like, he's got a full face, and he doesn't have eyeballs, but feels like he's looking at you.
Yeah.
It has not been corrupted.
Yeah, maybe very holy. But I was trying to figure out if they used spices or if they used salt or something, but I really couldn't find what these ding dang nuns did to this head.
Well,
Whatever they did, it worked.
Is it the wax? Are they saying that the head's the relic and they waxed it up?
It's possible. That's what I was kind of trying to figure out, is if he had been taken to Rome, because his body went to Rome, or at least his head definitely did for a time.
Mm-hmm.
So they may have dipped it in wax and figured it out then. But it's interesting because around 1994, Monsieur Francis Donnelly, who is the parish priest of the St. Peter's Church, where the head's at, he decided that he wanted to try to DNA test it to compare it against current Plunkett relatives to see if it was legit. Here's a quote from the Irish Times from Monsieur Francis Donnelly, who I'm just going to refer to as MFD.
Yeah, okay.
So MFD says, "I am morally certain it is his head. From a historical point of view, the head is comparatively easily traced." Then continued, "Myself and Dr. Vincent Sheehan took samples of the size of a crumb of the skull. We have also given samples from ourselves to exclude us from the results we're getting." They're trying to get the DNA signature of Oliver Plunkett, but it's really hard because hundreds and thousands of people have actually touched the head and even breathed on it, so it might be pretty, contaminated. Plus, it's so old that the DNA could have degraded, especially with the mummification process. So we're still, and this was in 97 or 94, kind of through 97 that this is happening. I still couldn't find confirmation whether or not this head is legit.
So, corruptible after all.
Corruptible after all, I think.
Shoot.
You should be incorrupt down to your DNA. So we may not know if the head is legit or not legit, but we might be able to ask his ghost because it was caught on film in 2010.
What?
Okay, so this is from an article from the Irish Central. In 2010, British author Vicky Bramshaw claimed to have captured a ghostly apparition of Saint Oliver Plunkett on video while visiting Ireland. So she was videotaping basically the door to the cell where Oliver Plunkett was held. And in the video, you can see this little weird face pop up in this little archway in the door. I'm going to actually send you this video right now because it's only about 35 seconds long. But you can see this little face. So I want you to check it out and see if you can see his little face.
Okay.
This
I'm
sounds
pulling it
very spooky.
I'm just watching it on mute. This door is intense.
Yeah, but do you see in the little...
Oh, yeah. That looked fake. Sorry.
No.
That looked like a Hamlet skull, like being somebody like showing a Hamlet skull and then backing away. What?
Yeah, I saw that.
I saw a face, but I'm not convinced. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, every time it comes out, it scares the shit out of me.
It's scary. But this Bramshaw, this author, she is the author of many books on witchcraft. So she is of a supernatural bent. And there's a quote from her from that Irish Times article that says, quote, I suppose I should be very honored if he did pick me, but it was very unnerving and a little bizarre to watch it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm unnerved just looking at it.
The saint picked me to appear to, but it was too spooky.
I'm not going
I
to do
wouldn't
an
like
Irish
that.
accent, but he's like, get out of here, witch. Like, telling her to leave.
I'm trying to convert more Catholics.
Maybe that's what he was doing. He was popping out to see if she would be converted.
Ooh.
Is she a Catholic, or do we know? We don't know.
I don't know. They didn't ask her.
Dang it!
But that's kind of the saga of Saint Oliver Plunkett's head. And, you know, when COVID's over, you can go and see it. It's still there at that church. You can look him right in his dried, awful face. But he was a man whose goal in life was to bridge Catholics and Protestants together to spread the word of the Lord. And his head's still doing that good work. So I'll just give my sources really quickly. I got articles from Atlas Obscura, Wikipedia, BBC, The Vintage News, Irish Times, Irish Central, and video from YouTube.
Oliver Plunkett, I had never heard of him. That's a good story.
Thank you.
And his ghost face is scary.
Yeah, I was not expecting a ghost face at the end of that story.
I was kind of disappointed that we didn't have strong, I couldn't find a strong thing coming out and saying, yes, this DNA evidence is one way or the other. But then I came across this ghost story and I was like, well, that's a great way to end it.
Yes.
Perfect.
It's a beautiful bow.
Anything can be saved by a ghost story.
Yes.
I'm going to stitch that on a pillow or something.
I'm going to stamp it on a potato doll.
Hey!
Hey, we got there.
Well, from heads to something completely different. Grace, are you ready to give us a bone story?
Whoo, boy. Yes, I am ready. And we begin. Okay, so my topic today is the bone paintings and bone collection of Georgia O'Keeffe.
Ooh.
Cool.
So I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and a huge part of people visiting us from out of state in my childhood was taking them to the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. So Georgia O'Keeffe was an American painter and artist that was born on November 15th, 1887. And I got most of my information from the O'Keeffe Museum website, o'keeffemuseum.org. They have a ton of great information as well as a lot of archived collections that you can view. So she was born in 1887, and she said in interviews that she decided she wanted to be a painter when she was 12 years old. She wasn't born in Santa Fe. She was born out east, and for her early career, she did a lot of paintings of New York skyscrapers and New York scenes, as well as depictions of flowers that were super interesting. But by the summer of 1929, when she was already recognized as one of America's most important and successful artists, she made her first trip to northern New Mexico, where she would end up spending most of her summers through the 1940s. So she ended up falling in love with northern New Mexico, and I found a really great interview with her on YouTube. The video is called Georgia O'Keeffe Talking About Her Life and Work. I'm sure it comes from another more legit documentary that I don't know the name of. So in this video, she is mostly talking about her collection of bones. And she says that when she was first spending that summer in New Mexico, the quote is, "The first year I was out here, because there were no flowers, I began picking up bones." And so she essentially just kept collecting more and more different kinds of bones. She said, "I wanted to take something home to work on. I had whole piles on the patio there." And at one point, she said that she literally had barrels of bones, which I then, after I read that, I was listening to the episode with Nick Kruger, and he was talking about barrels of teeth, and I thought that it was a good theme. Barrels of bones, barrels of teeth. So she had tons of bones. I watched a video. They hired a fifth-year PhD student who specializes in zoo archaeology. Her name is Victoria Monagle. So the Georgia O'Keeffe Foundation hired Monagle to do extensive research into Georgia O'Keeffe's bone collection. Her main thrust of research is into prehistoric dogs in the Pueblo Southwest, which I think is really cool. And this presentation was actually just recorded on September 2nd of this year, I think as part of a series during COVID to sort of keep people interested and engaged with the museum.
So sorry. Can we just go back really quick? So she couldn't find Georgia O'Keeffe couldn't find any flowers to pick up. So she was like, okay, next thing I'm going to pick up is just bones. Like, there is no in between.
Yeah, well, she was like, well, there's no flowers here. There's kind of nothing, but there are a lot of bones.
Yeah, get over that.
I don't know. That feels very applicable to our time, you know? These days it feels like there are very few flowers, but, you know, we all have to keep picking up the bones.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but she didn't think of bones necessarily as like a dark thing or a creepy thing.
Can relate.
Yeah, exactly. I think this would be a good time to show you a picture of Georgia with her bones. So this is a picture from 1937 in Abiquiu, New Mexico. She had a spot out there called Ghost Ranch where she lived and would paint from that had really beautiful landscape views. I think she loved painting landscape, but it was like after a certain point. So this picture, do you guys want to describe this picture?
Sure. It is Georgia O'Keeffe, and she's wearing the dopest hat ever. And she's holding in one hand, it looks like by the horn, the skull of a cow. And in the other hand, she's holding like the top neck, like vertebrae down through the ribs of what I might estimate is the same cow.
I'll go one step further. I think it's a bull. Because of the horns, not a cow.
Yeah, whatever this thing is, she's really holding like basically all of it, and the meat not completely off them bones.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. I'll post this on the Instagram for our listeners.
Georgia O'Keeffe had so many bones in her collection that she had skulls from more than 16 different species. Of all the bones, not just the skulls, this collection included pronghorn deer, cattle, bison, sheep, Spanish goat, elk, horse, coyote, badger, porcupine, bald eagle, whale.
Whale?
Yeah, wolverine, prairie dog, wood rat, horned owl, and beaver.
Where the hell did she get the whale?
Yeah, so Victoria Monagle is fantastic, and I think you two would appreciate this bone talk, but I did tune out a little bit when she was talking about the whales. I'm not sure if that came from New Mexico or elsewhere. If it was from New Mexico, it's from, like prehistoric, but I don't want to confirm that. Anyway, they have this whole collection of all of her bones.
They have this collection at the museum?
Yeah, so they have it in the archives, and they brought this woman in, and she's been going through all of them. You can see kind of in the background here, it's not a good picture, but there's like tons of them all lined up. Like I said, barrels of bones. And this PhD student, Victoria Monagle, wants to 3D scan the bones so that other artists and scientists can study and paint them, which I think is really cool. she's just really enthusiastic about the topic, and I feel lucky to have had this resource while I was doing this research. Okay, and now to the bone paintings. So she had just tons of them, like collections and collections of different paintings. Some of them were more literal paintings. This one is called Horse Skull with White Rose, 1931. And she paints a lot of skulls with flowers on or near them. And in the interviews with her, she said that she would go get these kind of cheapy, fake plastic flowers from local markets. And she had been painting one day, and someone knocked on her door, and she kind of just like set the flower down in the eye hole of the skull that she was working with. And then when she came back, she was like, oh, isn't that funny? And like decided to paint that. So she got her inspiration from different places. She was also acutely aware of being a female painter in sort of a man's world. All of the painters that were coming out west tended to be these macho guys who were doing these sweeping landscapes and very realistic stuff, and she felt like it was sort of hyper American. And so her answer to that was to paint this cow skull, and then included the colors of red, white, and blue. She said, I'll make my picture red, white, and blue. I'll make it an American painting. So that was kind of how she put her stamp on that. This one, Ram's Head Blue Morning Glory, which Victoria Monagle did say, she was like, I don't want to step on Georgia O'Keeffe's toes, but most of the paintings that she named as sheep skulls were actually goat skulls, and the goat skull paintings were actually sheep skulls.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you have them flip-flopped. I love this painting that you've got up here, the goat skull, sheep skull with the blue morning glory, right?
Yeah, Blue Morning Glory. So that's 1938.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so simple because it's really only the brown of the skulls, the white of the bone, and the blue of the flower. And it's just so striking.
It is striking. And also, I'm again just going to say, I can't believe how much Georgia O'Keeffe liked flowers. She just can't get enough of them.
No, she couldn't get enough of them. God, she has some beautiful paintings. And I know to a certain degree, I feel like with our generation, Georgia O'Keeffe has almost become sort of a joke of like, oh yeah, she's the painter that does vagina paintings. Like all her flowers are so yonic. And it's like, that's kind of like the shapes in nature, you know?
Yeah.
She interpreted things. She interpreted natural shapes from perspectives that weren't usually taken. And it was groundbreaking at the time. And for her to be reduced to the sort of sexualization of flowers is really doing a disservice to her history and her work. Which is why I kind of wanted to come in and talk about her skull paintings.
So awesome.
Yeah, I love this because it does create, like you were saying, I feel like that's the only thing I knew about Georgia O'Keeffe. But now, you know, this is creating so much wholer of a picture of who she was as an artist and her body of work.
Once she had been working with bones for a while, she started playing with using them as windows. So she would look through the bones into nature. And she said that she saw bones as more of a symbol of immortality than anything. So, like I said, she started looking through these bones and painting the landscapes framed by them. This painting is called Pelvis with Moon, and this is from a series of paintings that she did that was just entirely pelvises. In this painting, you can see Pedernal, which is a mountain in northern New Mexico, sort of below this pelvis, and then the moon sitting on top of it and the sky through it. And that's sort of what she used a lot. And then she went even more abstract with these, where she would play with the colors of the bone and the colors of the sky. This one's from 1945. It's called Pelvis Series Red with Yellow. And so the bone is red and the sky is yellow.
I love these bone window paintings just because, kind of like you were saying, a different perspective, different lens. She was seeing things through her own point of view, but also bones as immortality, but also a reminder of death. Like everything you see is kind of surrounded by the reminder of your limited time, but part of you lives on forever, your bones.
Your bones live on forever. Yes, and so I just want to read one more quote from her about bones. To me, they are as beautiful as anything I know. To me, they are strangely more living than the animals walking around. The bones seem to cut sharply to the center of something that is keenly alive in the desert, even though it is vast and empty and untouchable and knows no kindness with all its beauty.
That's from Georgia O'Keeffe herself.
Yeah, that's Georgia O'Keeffe herself who said
cool.
that. And she also said at a certain point, they please me, and I have enjoyed them very much in relation to the sky.
I like that. I like that they're in relation to the sky because your bones are your kind of earthly being, but then looking up to the sky also has some kind of, religious connotations or spiritual connotations. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and her bone paintings, in 2005, a children's book author, Jen Bryant, wrote a book based on this called Georgia's Bones. So if you want to buy a cool book for your niece or nephew for Christmas, Georgia's Bones. Georgia O'Keeffe continued to paint even as she began to suffer from macular degeneration, and she died in 1986 at the age of 98. Wow. So she really kept kicking for a long time. Oh, one thing I must add is I found out a fun bone fact from our friend Victoria, which was that the hole in the pelvis that she used as a little picture window is called the obturator frenum.
Ooh, that's a $20 word.
There's a hole in my pelvis?
Yes.
There's a hole in my pelvis.
There's a couple of holes in your pelvis, my dog.
Well, yeah, I know there's a big one, but that looks like... What? What is that?
The holes, baby.
Ew.
The holes.
Oh, thank you, Grace, for showing me. Grace turned around and
stood up and showed her pelvis. Yes.
But basically, I kind of knew about her bones, and now I know so much about her bones, and y'all should check out that video by Victoria Monagle. I said her name like 10 or 12 times.
I love Victoria Monagle. She's the fourth character on this episode.
She's just a really dedicated scientist, and I like people who are so intense about whatever their subject of study is.
Yeah, definitely. And I loved all those paintings that you shared with us. I definitely want to get a print of the sheep skull, goat skull with the morning glory. I just love that. It's so beautiful.
Well, Hanukkah's coming up.
Hanukkah.
I think I'll just be getting everybody bone art for the rest of my life, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea.
It fits everybody's aesthetic. Everybody's got bones.
That's what we all have in common.
Talk about togetherness, Oliver Plunkett.
Yeah.
We've also all got bones.
But that would be like if you were like, tongue presents are for everyone. We all have tongues.
I know, it's flawed. I just found out I have a hole in my pelvis. I'm really freaking out.
Katelyn, stay calm. It's supposed to be there.
Are you ready for our third story?
Yes.
I'm so ready, baby.
Ooh.
Give it to me.
We've been to Ireland. We've been to New Mexico. Now I'm going to take you on a little trip to Sweden. Hi.
Oh.
Yeah.
So.
Ya ding dong.
Okay.
Play Ya Ding Dong.
Play
That's
Ya Ding Dong.
That's Iceland. You're talking about Iceland.
Ooh, should we go visit Sig?
Oh my God. Cut this out. It's too niche. For those that don't know, we're talking about Eurovision, the great Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams movie on Netflix, where they are in Iceland, not Sweden.
Play ya ding dong.
Yeah, but they love ABBA, and ABBA
Yes.
is from Sweden.
There you go. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, you're right. So we're in Sweden. Now that we're there, I'll just take you back to 2009. On the southern Sweden's Motala Strom River in 2009, they were going to build a new railway. So it's a historical area, so they got to do some digs and check things out before they build this railway. And I'm pretty glad that they did, because they found animal bones, tools from antlers, wooden stakes, and bits of human skull in this. It's actually a bog. It said that they were found in bog's lime sediment. And I should say my sources were 2 articles from National Geographic and then 1 article from history.com about this. So in 2011, a man named Fredrik Hallgren in Sweden, he's involved with the Cultural Heritage Foundation. He led an archaeological project on the site, which is, I'm going to try and say this word. The project is on the Kana Ljorden excavation site. It's spelled Kanalljorden.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Thank you. Kana Ljorden is what I'm going to go with. That kind of had a G at the, whatever.
It sounds beautiful.
I am a little bit Swedish. I actually, my dad and my mom both did DNA tests. If I average out the percentage of my parents' Scandinavian ancestry, I'm 28.5% Scandinavian.
Nice. I'm also a good deal Swedish.
Yeah.
Andersson.
Is that a family name?
Yeah, that's my mom's maiden name.
You have to scream it every time you say it.
Andersson. Play ya ding dong.
All right. So they were pretty excited about the things that they found, you know, the bits of animal bone, a little bit of people bone, wooden stakes. But what the thing that they found that was most exciting was the first known instance of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers mounting human skulls on stakes.
Huh?
Yeah. These are 8,000-year-old skulls that they have found were actually mounted on stakes in this lake.
Hell yes. Hell yes.
8,000 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So normally these societies have great respect for the dead and their bodies, but this is a find that really baffled people, scientists and archaeologists, because this is not normal. Like, this is the first kind of find like this in Scandinavian Mesolithic, history. And I should say the Scandinavian Mesolithic period is that period after the glaciers retreated from the region, quote, and during which hunter-gatherer groups from both Western mainland Europe and Northeast Europe began to move in around 11,000 years ago. So people were starting to kind of move inward.
That was a crazy time for me. Too much partying, too many glaciers.
So the railway project was going to take place in 2009, and then the main kind of excavation started in 2011. And then about 7 years later, all the findings are reported in the journal called Antiquity. And this is what they called this article: "Keep your head up."
You little stinkers.
That is funny. I was like, I can't have read that right. "Keep your head up" is the name of a scientific journal entry about, journal article about heads on stakes 8,000 years ago. Did I mention the study was published in February 2018? If I didn't, there it is. So the skulls were of 9 adults and 1 infant. They were found deliberately placed on a densely packed layer of large stones. They didn't have their jaw bones, and 2 of them had well-preserved stakes inside them. They were kind of in the bottom of the skull. There was no jawbone also, I think, on all of them. And so because of where the stakes were, it seemed to them like the skulls were put on stakes and then put in the water. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't, a skull didn't just float by and get caught on this wooden stake. Like it was very deliberate is what it seemed like to the archaeologists. There were also animal bones arranged around the skulls, and they were kind of sorted depending on what creature they came from.
Oh.
2 of the skulls were female, 4 were male. 2 belonged to people between the ages of 20 and 35. There was also, like I said, there was an infant skeleton. My sources said it was nearly complete, and it was probably a stillborn or died shortly after birth because it was so small.
So what is going on over here?
Yeah, good question. The victims' skulls did have like a lot of damage to them. There's blunt force trauma kind of on all of them. The female skulls had injuries on the back and right sides of the heads, and the male skulls each had a single blow to the top of the head and face. So our buddy Frederick Hallgren said, quote, "These are not people who have been recently smashed in the head and then put on display. More than half of them had this healed trauma to the head."
That's
So it wasn't
so
just
strange.
like, it's right. So it's not like all these people were killed and then their heads were mounted. Some of them had these injuries and that were healed.
So what you're saying is that all of these people had very similar injuries to each other, but they weren't the injuries that caused their deaths?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
They weren't really able to determine what cause of death was for these people. There were just a lot of injuries. Like I said, some of them had healed, so clearly that wasn't the death blow if it had healed. So it kind of leads me to believe that whoever's skeletons were in the lake led pretty violent lives. They led pretty violent lives, more like had a very violent, death.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do they know if they were like a group apart from the native like populations there, or?
They do. I mean, it's kind of unclear. I'm going to get more into that in a second, but I just have to tell you the craziest thing that they found. I'm not done. They found a female skull with another woman's temporal bone stuffed inside it.
Okay.
Why?
Why? The question on everyone's lips. Why?
Yeah, that's in my
Why?
notes, actually. My next note is why. And I'm sorry to disappoint, but I'm not going to be able to give you a clear answer because we don't know. They have some hypotheses, but this is an unsolved one from 8,000 years ago.
What are some of the hypotheses?
So Hallgren thinks that they could have been used for secondary burial rites. So these people were buried and then they decomposed and then they were dug back up and then their bones were arranged as kind of some kind of ritual, funereal ritual, who knows exactly what. So that's one of the options. And important to note, at least one other Mesolithic site in Sweden bears resemblance to this kind of tradition where they would dig people back up and maybe do something with the bones. Another maybe more I don't know, they're both interesting hypotheses, but this one is a little bit more dark. Maybe these were people that were killed in combat or people that were like soldiers or something that were captured and tortured and then put on display in this lake with some animal bones.
That's kind of what I was thinking, like if they had so many bonks to their head before they died, they had to be doing something rough and tumble.
Yeah, so we don't know. It was either, locals that had a very violent life or foreigners. There seems to be some sort of ongoing testing being done, but they are Scandinavian, the skulls in the lake. They're definitely Scandinavian. So I'm gonna give you one more quote from Frederick Hallgren. His name is all over my sources. He's a big deal in Sweden.
He's the Victoria Monagle of Swedish ancient archaeology.
This is from history.com. Quote, "We interpret the site as a ritual place used by a group of hunter-gatherers that live dispersed in the surrounding landscape for large parts of the year, but gathered at the rapids of the nearby river Matola Strom for communal fishing of fawning communal fishing of spawning fish during shorter periods. Such gatherings were, we believe, the time for social interaction like arranging marriages, making offerings, and burying the dead. So this site may have been kind of a sacred site of some kind, because that's what Hallgren seems to think. I don't know. There is no because. It's just like, he's smart. He probably knows better than me.
I mean, I wonder if those people were people who were buried elsewhere for the time being and then dug up and brought back to this place to be buried somewhere more holy.
It's totally possible.
Or like, because you said spawning fish, right?
Yeah, because it's right on a river and there's like, water. So yeah.
This is the birth of fish that feed us and the cycle of life. Here's the bones and
birth, death. Yeah, it makes sense.
We could write all kinds of stories.
We can all imagine it any way we want because there is no answer. It's an 8,000-year-old mystery. And I just thought it was really cool because I'm Swedish. Now I know that you are, Grace. And I would like to imagine that I've got some ancestors there and hopefully they don't have their heads on stakes.
Oh, I thought you were going to wish the opposite. I thought you were going to be like, one of those heads.
Take my DNA, Sweden, please. I want to know.
We would only want them on the stakes if the stakes did mean that they were being honored.
Exactly.
Yes.
If it meant that they were a prisoner of war, I don't want to be involved.
No, if it's a deviant burial, maybe not.
So I've got one picture to send you to finish things off. In June of 2020, there was an article published in National Geographic about the facial reconstruction of one of these skulls. Mm-hmm. I'm going to send the reconstruction to you right now on Facebook.
Oh boy.
You like?
So it's this is like a sculpture or like a recreation of this guy who looks like he should be in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
He's got kind of a mullet and a beard situation going on.
He also, the artist wanted to put him in like a boar's cloak. I think it was a boar because that's probably what people wore in that area at that time.
Yeah, he's got some chest paint.
Yeah. So this is, they've named him Ludwig.
Ludwig.
This is Ludwig. And for our listeners, I'll post this on the Instagram and Facebook. So this was commissioned by a museum. It is called the Charlottenborgs Slot. Unclear. It's in Matola. So Matola is the part of the name of the river that this site is on. So it's nearby. Don't worry about it. And the exhibit is actually like ongoing. So I think Sweden's doing okay COVID-wise. So it's because according to National Geographic in June 2020, this portrait or facial reconstruction of Ludwig was supposed to go on exhibit at that time in June 2020.
I mean, they're certainly doing better than us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There you go.
There you go. And I thought this was really interesting, and this is what I'm going to end on. This is also from National Geographic. Quote, while Ludwig is light-skinned and light-eyed, DNA from a female skull that will be reconstructed next year indicates that she was blonde but darker-skinned, attesting to the genetic complexity of Scandinavia at that time. End quote.
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, Ludwig looks like he's gonna amble outside and feed some beer to a reindeer or something, you know?
Yes, he does have very, like, gritty, realistic Santa vibes.
Scandinavian 8,000-year-old gritty Santa.
Yeah, this is the gritty reboot of Santa.
Well, Grace, thank you for coming on Anything Bones.
Man,
I can't believe you're here.
Thanks for having me. It's a dream come true. I'm a big bonehead, so
Yeah,
this
Grace is one of our big boneheads. And
As is tradition, we must ask you, what is your favorite bone?
Oh, I actually thought about this ahead of
Good.
time.
You're the
And-
only one who did.
It's just because I was listening to Nick's episode yesterday and I was like, I need to prepare. My favorite bone is the clavicle because it connects your shoulder to everything else. It's kind of just like floating in there, but it does so much. And I also think it's very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I like neck bones and shoulder bones aesthetically. Hey, that's what you meant. Now I get it. We all have bones, so it's all of our aesthetic.
Yeah.
thank you. I'm glad you got it
Yeah.
40 minutes later.
It was a sink and think, you know. You
processed it. Thank you for telling me that you processed it.
yeah.
Internalized it.
Do you have like a favorite bone of the week, or is it just always the same?
It's the guest's favorite bone, so it's the clavicle this week.
Yeah.
This week's episode is brought to you by the clavicle.
And just before we go, can I tell them so?
Do it.
Today, Sunday, November 29th, the day we're recording, Sophie and I have hit 500 total downloads of Anything Bones.
Sorry, that's probably terrible for the sound quality. Can I do it quieter?
Yeah.
Put in some sound or not. It doesn't matter. We just wanted to say thank you to everybody that's been supporting us and listening to Anything Bones. We're just so excited as newcomers to the podcast world. It's just feeling so good to be here.
Yeah.
I can just see you guys growing and growing.
I hope so.
Thank you, Grape. Yeah, thank you to everyone who's been listening and writing reviews and sharing on their social medias. That helps a lot. And we'll be back with you next week with another fun episode.
Yeah. So, all I have to say to you is bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter.
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
At Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
Bones!
You want me to make potato dolls?